So a couple of weeks ago, there was balance for the game. I did a big video talking about it, and I promised you all at the time that I'd give you a dedicated production on what the new skill animations and effects they were adding, what the reworks were gonna look like. When we did that video, it was just a preview. The stuff wasn't in-game. And I know it's been a while, but damn it, I said I'd do it, so we're gonna do it. Today, we're gonna look at a bunch of the new animations and fun stuff. Now, make no mistake, you might be scratching your head wondering, hold on, why are they adding new skills to Guild Wars 2? It's more that they're reworking and changing things, which is introducing a lot of new animations. It's not that there's new elite specs and stuff coming out, but the quality of some of this stuff you're about to see, particularly say with Theif, will probably make you scratch your head as to whether they're taking elite specialization work and maybe repackaging it and repurposing it another way, because this stuff is gorgeous. This isn't the first time I've really shown this stuff off. People got a big kick out of it last time, so I guess we'll do it again. The main classes we'll look at today are Theif, which has a whole new selection of utility skills. It used to have traps since 2012 up until just a couple of weeks ago. Theif had traps. It now no longer has those. It has this classification called preparations, which are totally different. We're going to spend a lot of time on Theif. We're going to look at Revenant a little bit. We're going to look at Necromancer a little bit, at Scrapper, and also Chronomancer. Chronomancer's shatters will change into new skills with new animations too. So, yeah, let's run through. First of all, starting off with these preparations. Now, I've got 3 of them loaded on my bar. There are actually 4 of them. There is no preparation heal skill. They've got Venoms, they've got Signets, they've got Tricks, they've got Deceptions, but nothing else. And there is no Deception Elite either. So they are just existent in the utility slot. There's not that many of them. But let's run through. First of all, at the Pitbull. So this one's replacing, I think it was Ambush, which would just summon a Thief if somebody triggered it. Well, it's now Pitfall, and it's a big knockdown, basically. Preparation. Mark your current area with controlling magic, readying the location to crush enemies when the Pitfall is released. So all of these are flip-over skills, and the start is to pick an area you want to ambush someone. So let's say we're doing some 2v2s. We stealth up, and you know that the enemy team is going to be hanging around near their spawn. We drop the preparation here. Cast time on the opener is very, very short. After a second, it activates. You notice there was a bit of a blank space there? But once it activates, you get this big ring. It looks a bit like a Necromancer mark, right? With the staff skills on Necro, the Lich Form skill. But instead of being quite small and subtle, it's actually a really big symbol in the center. The symbol representing the same artwork that we see when we actually look at it on the user interface. So an enemy can walk into this area now, and unlike a trap, it won't auto-proc. I get to decide. I can be off, you know, fighting over here, and I can still trigger it over the edge there, and no one will have any idea. But so let's look over at the animation itself. This is the Pitfall. And it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's quite incredible. You notice the way the cooldown on these skills works, by the way, that while you're waiting to activate, this is actually already cooling down. I swear this should be unintended. But it's already cooling down right now while I talk to you. It should really only cool down after I trigger it, but that means some major stuff for some of these other ones. But yeah, you see like this bamboo coming up. It feels really Canther-y, doesn't it? All of these do. So here, I'll show you again. You also notice that the rotation here, actually, of the art depends on where we are facing as we place it. It's actually changed now. But I'll do it again. Really cool. Very, very, very awesome stuff. Realistically, this skill I haven't actually been having that much fun with since the patch came out. The damage doesn't feel as good as I want it to be. Even though it's a 3-second knockdown, I just feel like as a Thief, you tend to be like always on Shadow Step. You tend to be on Signet of Agility, and there's just certain limitations on your build that means I don't really run this much. But you see some people doing it. Next, and you'll notice there's a big animation. I'll come back to that in a second. We have 1,000 Needles. So this one is the condition one. This replaces the like line trap that would I think it was tripwire, was it? It would knock someone over, or maybe this one's replacing tripwire, but you know, it would basically immobilize and poison the hell out of someone. That was one of the only traps that I used to use before this patch came in, and you used to be able to trigger it on your heal skill. You can no longer do that. So this next preparation animation changes on the ground once again to be like we see in the icon. You notice the flip overs look red. And if you actually watch gameplay of people on Thief now, if they're running one of them, you'll nearly always just be seeing this red icon here, because as a Thief, you always kind of want to have your preparation down somewhere, ready to trigger and use later. It's very little use just having it unplaced, right? So anyway, this is what this animation looks like. And you see a lot of players on this, because there's a hell of a Condi bomb, right? You see you've got Cripple and you've got Bleed to cover the conditions. You've got Poison on there and Immobilization. And remember, any Deadly Arts Thief can easily take Panic Strike. which means immobilization ticks become even more poison. And this pulses multiple times, so this is really deadly. You can stack insane poison with this. Check it out. And you see the needles. The needles seem to like come from the sky. You know, they'll just appear and then fall down. The entire area looks poisoned and horrible to stand in. The animation doesn't really last long enough that, you know, it's this lingering thing you often, you know, will be able to get out of. If you're in the middle of this and he procs it, you're going to get mobbed in it at the same time. The time for you to cleanse and get your full dodge rolls out, you're going to eat a lot of the damage. But here, as you can see again, it's kind of a horrible, acidy kind of pool. Actually looks like it should be a combo finisher, really, but it's not. You know, very, very, very Condi loaded skill. I actually don't even run this on condition damage Theif fields, I have to be honest, again, just because I value other stuff. But this is a hell of a bomb if you want to use it for that. So that's the 1,000 needles. Next, you have probably my favorite new one of the set. This is the Shadow Portal. This one replaces the old trap that you could just teleport to at insane range. This is like a mini Mesmer portal for Theif. It's only in one direction and only one player gets to use it, but you pulse stealth out when you go through the portal, you pulse weakness out. It's really cool. So we're going to place it, and here we can see that it's on the ground. I'll note, by the way, enemies do not see this giant icon. Enemies have no idea. The only thing that an enemy might notice is you placing. Like, if an enemy sees me do this, and that, like, wave that comes out, kind of the white wave, they can see that, so they'll know there's something going on, but they won't know the exact range. They won't know what type of preparation it is. They'll just have to guess. So, and if you do that before the fight, obviously they've got absolutely no way of knowing. But so to look here, this is the Shadow Portal. Got a cool looking swell there. It's already recharging underneath, so you can like double cast these. And what I can do is I can move 5,000 range away. So like 5,000 range is bigger than this entire arena, right? Like I could try and get across the entire broken down bridge here, right? And I could portal right across. This is a true teleport instead of a nav mesh shadow step now, which means that you don't kind of get screwed by terrain and stuff like the old trap version. The preparation is basically just so much better. So here we can place it, and you'll see we get this swirling vortex here that if I interact with, the vortex disappears. There's a big pulse of smoke, and I appear on the other side in stealth, so I can immediately, you know, go with my backstab or whatever. I've weakened the target. So there are some really important things here. Which parts of this animation does the enemy see? So they can actually see a lot. First of all, they can see you place it. Then they can look over your active effects, and they can see, you know, that you've got a free escape. Triggering the portal is actually a stun break. So if you knock me down here, I can just stun break open this, right? Now, the other thing is, when I go through, you see this big smoke cloud that appears when I actually travel, when I press F, or when my ally goes through? That smoke cloud, enemies can see. So if I'm on my own and, you know, standing around at a node or something, and suddenly I see a big smoke cloud, I know that a target is near me in stealth. So it's not as cheesy as it initially looks, because you can see the smoke cloud appear, and then you'll know for the next 2 seconds someone could just jump me. That can be obviously difficult to spot if you're in a 1v1, you know, and someone's using a shadow portal with some kind of +1 or something. But it's a really, really fun skill. Obviously, it has less use in PvE because the game's not as detailed or interesting in PvE. It has use in World versus World because you can kind of bomb people around. You can bomb mesmers around that then trigger their own portals and stuff, I suppose. But really, this is a fun skill for PvP, and I'm really happy with it. I like that you can see it being placed, and I like that you can see it being popped as well. I'll give you one more demonstration of that. The bit they see is not this. It's this. Actually, it might be both. It might even be both. It might be they see when it opens. I guess we'll have to see. Anyway, so that's 3 of them. There is one more. One final preparation before we go to another class. And that one, I love that we get new names, new icons, and new animations on these, by the way. It really is like a full new set. It's Seal Area, right? So this one, I think, this one might even be the tripwire replacement. So this is the big, basically mass CC. It's like getting a ring of warding from the Guardians on Theif. You can lock someone into a small arena and then, you know, try to use that to your advantage. I actually think this is the weakest of all of them. Because it really has no damage. It has very little on it. But the cooldown's quite low. I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun to try and make a build about this. But so here, let's check it out. Create an area that blocks projectiles. That's important to note. And steals enemies in. So here it's been placed. You can see a nice visual of somebody surrounded by some kind of bubble. We move over. And you'll see it's very Guardian looking. It's an incredible animation. It's a huge animation. It's like Guardian mixed with Theif, which is exactly like mechanically what it feels like it should be. Big dome, and then you've got the swirling black mist around there to represent those Thiefy elements. I guess the devs kind of drew from Guardian-y stuff because they want players to sort of... We already associate those kind of blue lines and walls within Guild Wars 2 as being, you know, hard CCs and places you can't walk over. You know, you think about that with like a Dragon's Maw, you think of that with a Ring of Warding, you think of that with a Line of Warding. So I guess that they did that because they know that people don't have to kind of, you know, it's still in your instincts to stay away. You kind of instinctually know I'm going to get knocked if I try and walk into this. But yeah, it's a huge animation. So let's talk about one final thing. The visual noise, okay? Now, these all look lovely, and in any kind of single-player game and in any kind of environment where you were just using one or two, I think, obviously, they look, you know, very, very, very cool. I do think, though, they are, for how spammable some of them are, like, Pitfall's on 25 seconds, this one's on 35. The animations are mental. You can actually stack them all up together as well. And I'm not saying this is good gameplay, so you won't see people do this much, but it's kind of nuts when you pop all of them. Like, you just can't see what's going on here. I mean, this is kind of the dream, though, right? That if you want to go for that idea of locking someone in with emobes and all kinds of other stuff, you can even, like, double cast them back to back. They're really lovely. I like the animations, but they are a bit of an eyeful, definitely. Especially, like, look at how refined and clean so many of the other Thief animations are. Like, think about how subtle, by comparison, something like Fist Flurry is, or the Venoms, or any of them, really. And then you have just these explosively massive things. But maybe that's sort of what Guild Wars 2 feels like now. But there you go. So that's Thief. Those are the new animations. They're the new skills. Probably the most exciting part of the patch to me. But we do have some other cool bits as well. Let's move over to Rev next, which had 2 new skill reworks. Alright, so Revenant. Really, we're just looking at the Malik's toolkit here, which had its elite and had its 3rd utility skill changed up. Obviously, I know you can reorder these. I still don't think that this set is feeling that strong. The pain absorption skill is what I would actually focus on next if I were ArenaNet. The other ones all feel okay, but the heal feels a bit mediocre, and then this especially, it feels like half a skill, or even a 1/3 of a skill rather than a whole skill. Anyway, so 2 changes. First of all, Call to Anguish. Once upon a time dropped an AoE field that continuously pulsed chill, and then obviously a torment was on there as well, and then you could trait so that the chill would do things. That's no longer a field, it's just a gap close or gap creator, and in exchange it's hard CC. Putting hard CC on the set I think is a good move, but the idea now is you pull foes into you. It's like a vacuum that you suck everyone together. The radius is still kind of low. I think if this had a higher radius, it would make the kit kind of interesting. You know, if it was something more akin to like Mesmer's Temporal Curtain or something, so it felt actually special and like it did something. But yeah, we can have a look at it here, and its lack of an AoE, so I'll just use it towards the gate here. This arena's actually locked. But as you can see, we get kind of the suck. You see the subtle little lines moving in around us, and players will actually be just yanked towards us. In fact, maybe we'll go to the golems and show that off in just a second. The other skill change as well was Embrace the Darkness. Now, this one's really fun. For Embrace the Darkness, when we click it, it will just pulse like so, okay? You're going to get this plus sign coming out from you over and over and over again. And as it pulses, each one of these is more torment going out. It's just torment, 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 torment. That's the way the skill works. However, the recent patch changed this so that if you use a skill that casts energy, it will turbocharge the next pulse, meaning it does additional torment, another 2 stacks, right? So you triple the torment as long as you're spending energy, which you will be, because you're going to use stuff that's not autos, right? So you could think, well, the devs would just leave it there. Each plus sign now just does triple the damage. But they actually changed the animation. So check this out. You got the plus, but now if I use like Mender's Rebuke, I'll spend some energy. Watch what happens to the next plus after it. So you can see here, you might have missed a little bit of that. In all this other little sections, we see other lines come out, and then in the ring all around, you see it actually glows purple. Like the entire thing shines up. Here, I'll show you again. Watch closely. I'll trigger it multiple times. So here's one skill. So they all pulse out, and it lights up here. We'll do another skill. You see they come out. There's even a bit of a sound effect change. We'll go for another. You hear that kind of noise, and then it will go again. Obviously, it's very energy intensive, and we have things to talk about there in terms of the balance. But yeah, that's kind of the animation shake-ups. That's what's really changed there with Revenant. Let's not worry about the golems. You get the idea. We would jump to an area, and all the golems would shoot towards us. That's about it. It's not the first skill in the game that's had a pull towards us. Lots of characters have got that. Guardian, Greatsword 5, Earth Shield, you know. So next we're looking at Necromancer. Core Necromancer particularly. Not Reaper, not Scourge. Though Scourge did have some kind of subtle changes we'll get into later. We're looking at Core Necro, which they have done several changes on the core kit over the years, you know, adding Reveal onto Tainted Shackles. They dropped a lot of the cooldowns on it this patch. They're definitely trying to make it a viable contender along with the elite specializations. So for this release, what they've done is they've changed the skill 2, which is now, you know, unlike with the Rev stuff, which just was kind of some slight changes, this is a full-on different skill now with a different icon, as you can see, and everything, right? So we're looking at Dark Path, and this has become a flip-over skill. In the past, what that skill was a single projectile you threw out. When it latched onto the target, it did like chill and bleed or chill and poison or something. And it would teleport you in instantly, which meant that you kind of had to melee if you wanted to get use out of that skill. Like, it was a very risk-heavy skill, even though it's a strong skill. You know, it's you could trait for it to corrupt, but maybe you don't always want to teleport in. You know, maybe you want to be auto-attacking from range. Maybe you want to conserve yourself a little bit. Maybe you don't want to go too deep. And, well, I think the devs recognized that. So the main thing for this release is the skill now flips over, so you have a choice whether you TP or not. All right, not just that, but they changed the velocity and the way that this works with the Z-axis, I think, which actually has made it a little bit clunkier. So anyway, let's see. This is the new Dark Path. Send out a claw. If it hits, it inflicts bleed and chill. AoE. So you're going to watch it come out now, but there's going to be an AoE animation here. Ready? We will AoE bleed and chill and so on, which definitely brings it into 2019. As long as it lands. You'll see there it sounds like Spinal Shivers. Actually, we might have just proc Spinal Shivers there. I might actually be wrong on that one. If we're running Spite on this build, I might already have just done that. Yeah, maybe I did that from Chill of Death there. But that's the idea. So it's kind of an AoE version of the skill. You'll see again. And the interesting part of the animation is this green skull above the target's head. So I think we have seen that green skull before with a Lich Form skill. Before Lich Form got reworked a while back, you had a mark on here, which meant that people would be vulnerable, and it would put like the green skull up. Well, this one now, this green skull is representing the fact that if I'm this heavy golem and I have this skull on me, I know that I am at risk of a necromancer suddenly teleporting onto me, because the necro latches on, and as long as that skull's there, I can now use Dark Pursuit. Now, Dark Pursuit only teleports. It doesn't trigger the trait. It doesn't do any other stuff. It doesn't have damage in it. It's just the TP. But so I really like the idea of the animation here, that the player knows that they're vulnerable. It's kind of a weird thing, though, because we kind of burst in and out of Shroud. You're not going to have any necromancers really proc the first half and then do lots of fighting, and then move in at the last second. The skull doesn't last long enough for me to like get back into Shroud and then appear at them. I think if it lingered a really long time, so I could mark him and then I could like hide for a while, or maybe if I could trigger the second one now while I was out somehow, it would be really cool, and like you'd have a lot of interesting play and thought behind, oh god, am I marked or not? Instead, it's just kind of, do I want to double tap or not? Realistically, Necros are just getting benefit out of having some more AoE here. You'll see it's doing okay on this power core Necro I'm on right now. But really, Condi builds are the ones that will care more because it's AoE bleed and whatnot. But yeah, so that's the skill. That's how it works now with the flip over. And yeah, like I said as well, it feels a bit clunkier to land. I'm not sure. Maybe that's just me. You guys who have been playing it, any Necro mains out there in the comments, might like to add how they feel about actually landing it. But in the past, I felt like I was more confident about getting those tags. And when I play Core Necro since the change, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a massive shake-up. Not always the best improvement. But that's it. So that's their new skill 2, Dark Path and Dark Pursuit. Let's look over very quickly at Scrapper for one new skill. It's a new F5, and what's it called? Function Gyros. Yeah, so Function Gyro before was kind of a weird thing where it was a skill, but you were triggering it by pressing F and like the little contextual thing was appearing. It felt a bit strange. Well, the devs have kind of ironed that out. It's a ground targeted ability to cast your function gyro in a location. In addition to that, it creates a lightning field. And in addition to that, the first trait you get in Scrapper augments it in some way. None of these traits, though, actually change the way that it looks. So, for example, your function gyro dazes foes when cast. It's not going to change the animation, which I think is a bit of a missed opportunity and a bit of a shame from the devs. But here, let's have a look. You get the cool, like, ground target here, which you got to think, now that they've changed all the other gyros to just be cast on yourself, and then that's it. You don't get to see a ground target telegraph or whatever. This is actually kind of fun to see the gyro there in green. You know, if I use my skill 5, we have the thunderclap that we've known for a long time. If I go to mortar, we have the giant, you know, just targeting reticle. Well, we get this one here. So check this out. As I place it down, you get a lightning strike and you get a lightning field. This doesn't do damage, so it's literally just a lightning field. In fact, I think if we were to turn off show ground target rings, you might not know that there's much of a field there at all, to be honest. But you can combo out of it, you can do whatever. And if I were to have cast that on a downstate body or on an ally, you would just see your little function gyro there, as you have since Heart of Thorns came out, and there's nothing different about it. The function gyro would just go for his stomp or for his res, and that's it. So that's your new skill 5, really. I did want to show it off. This has got actually a profound meaning for engineer in general. In a way, a skill has actually been deleted, like straight up deleted from the game. In the detection pulse used to be your F5 when you had sneak gyro on. But you don't get special F5s on Scrapper anymore. It's always function gyro. You don't get the med pack supply drop. You don't get to toss Elixir X. You don't get orbital bombardment. You don't get the detection pulse. The detection pulse is gone because if I turn off Scrapper and go to core engineer, well, there's no gyro for me to pick up anymore. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I do think, though, this could be very good for core engineer builds, which, just like with Necromancer and all the others, I'm sure the devs do actually want to be interesting. What that means is, because the Holomancer is, Holosmith is in the same situation, right? They all get replaced by Enter Photon Forge. So what that means is that Toss Elixir X, like Mini-Mower, we guaranteed know only core engineers ever get that. And the med pack drop, only core engineers get that. So all the devs have to do is buff skills like this out the ass and make them really interesting. And core engineer has a place in the game because you can't get those if you're a holo. You can't get those as a scrapper. So you pick them up if you really care about that tech, if they're strong enough. You know, if they look at the cooldowns of like Mini-Mower being on 2 minutes and so on. So that could be interesting future design. But as far as the animation is concerned, that's it. You've seen it. The function gyro, new skill, and there it is. Alright, so Chrono. When you are a Chronomancer now, you no longer have 5 shatters, you have just 4. Both Distortion and C-Split are rolled into 1, and the first 3 shatters have now changed. So instead of Mind Rack, you get Split Second. Instead of Cry of Frustration, you get Rewinder. And instead of Diversion, you get Time Sink. These 3 skills are basically the same as the classic shatters, but with slight twists. So, for example, the extra damage on Split Second now comes from as long as the enemy has slow on them. Rewinder has a thing whenever it hits, so if you get a triple clone shatter on it, for example, it reduces the cooldown. So it says 21.25 there for me. But if I get a triple shatter on it, it comes back almost instantly. Like you can get, there's an idea of like a rewinder spam kind of build for PvE is interesting. And then you've got Time Sink, which has changed in that it adds slow guaranteed, I guess. Otherwise, it doesn't seem too different. So, and they can be traded in the same way as all the regular shatters. That's not going to change their animations much. But so, let's check them out on these training dummies here, right? So, let's get a couple of clones up. We have 3 clones. And they do have different animations. Now, shatters are kind of quick, fast casting, fast activating things. So it is a bit weird, I think, to give them animations, since most players won't really know what they've reacted to unless it's just been, you know, they were already dodging, already blocking, already whatevering. But here is, so here's Split Second. And you'll notice there's a real cracking sound effect on there. Split Second has a very distinct, different sound effect. We get the kill on the training dummy there. So let's re-summon up a little bit here as well. I'll get another clone off the back of this Phantasm here. And let's look at Rewinder. So Rewinder is as long as we land all of them, it will recharge really quickly. So I want you guys to look at the animation, but also the fact that this is supposed to cool down in 20 seconds. But let's have a look and listen to. So that one has a really nice visual on it. I'll definitely replay that for you guys. It's over in the blink of an eye. But it is there, and it does look very, very nice. You can really see this idea of, like, clocks on there or whatnot. So that's nice to see. And, yeah, the skill comes back super fast. I can cast it again. And it will come back super fast again in a second, even though I only landed 2 shatters this time. You also get those kind of nice swirly bits of the animation coming off of the back. That's kind of interesting. And then, finally, we do have time sync. So let's see and hear this one. So you get all the cogs in, you know, in midair. Here I'll give you guys a recast, just so you can look nice and closer. It does look nice. But again, the way that these work, I'm not sure how much they really needed nice animations. Lastly, we have Continuum Split, which, as you'll see here, and Distortion at the same time, doesn't actually look any different. The rift doesn't look any different. The effect on us from gaining distortion doesn't look any different. We get alacrity there as well as we cast these, so we glow purple or pink a lot for a second. But this one, the F4 is actually no different at all. You know, it's just kind of the 2 skills in one, and there's really nothing animation-wise to look at there. So, yeah, that's those. If you want my take, by the way, on these changes and how they've affected the game, it's really hard to play Chrono in open-world PvE. Well, no, I don't know. It's still okay because of Chrono Phantasma to run a lot of Chrono-oriented stuff for, like, just DPSing things on your own in the open world and whatnot. But for PvP, I find it really hard to play Chrono at the moment. I feel like Chrono is really, really, really low down. Unless you go for something kind of really cheesy and silly, which will only ever get you so far, Chrono just feels clunky, man. It feels clunky. Like the Rewinder Condi Dream, I've just not been able to make it work myself. So, there you have it, guys. That's most of it. There is also a Mirage change, which I do think is worth talking about. That's June Cloak. So, this is the Sand Shards change, which is your dodge roll. So, let's be clear. This is what our normal ambush looks like when we dodge. Hold on. Let me unequip Flames of War here, because you're just going to get confused from that animation. So, here's what it looks like. We get the wave ripple underneath us, and then obviously we're getting protection on the back of it, but we can kind of ignore that. And I'll go again, as you can see there. But now, if you take June Cloak, it's a damaging boon theft skill. It looks in like damage log. The actual icon for this skill is Empathy from Guild Wars 1, which is actually unchanged from before the patch. But now that the damage is higher, you see it a bit more regularly. But now have a look. When I dodge, we actually get like this explosive wave shoots out from around our feet, and the sound effect changes. So you can see the kind of woof, kind of boon rip. It happens actually at the end, as you'll see here. When my cloak finishes and I become vulnerable again, that's when the damage lands. But you can kind of precast it in a meaningful way, right? You can kind of do this, blink in, and then mind rack at the same time, and like, you know, with your mirror blade there. It is kind of a bit of a supplement. It is a bit of a thing. And if your dodge roll just stole you 25 might at the start of a big combo, well, that's kind of fun. The thing is, Infinite Horizon is just so strong. Ooh, it feels hard to justify this, even post-patch for me. But that's what the new animation looks like. Pretty fun stuff. So I do want to end the video just with this little clip here. I got some of the guildies together, and they helped me out to show off some other animation changes. So it's now true that when you're on the opposing team of certain skills, they look different for you. So, for example, here's some Guardian animations. This is a wall of reflection. And you'll notice that I can now tell it's an enemy wall of reflect. The visuals on it are not as blue, not as clean, not as crisp. It looks like a dangerous wall of reflection. So I don't need ground targets. I don't need to see that little red ring at the base, right? Which I could even have culled away in my options to know, don't walk into this thing. Or don't shoot into this thing, rather, for this specific animation. And then there's also another change here with Purging Flames. I love this one. Look at this. Instead of blue fire, it's like red, orangey, dangerous-looking fire. And if you walk in and out of this ring, you know you're going to take damage. You're not actually looking at the user interface sort of highlighting a red ring around the skill. You're actually seeing, look, this skill itself looks intimidating. It doesn't look like the blue kind of cool, friendly fire if I was an ally to this Guardian. So it looks different. And then there were several of these in the patch, but I did just want to show you a couple of my highlights. Here's over on Necromancer. Some beautiful stuff with Scourge. So, Plague Lands, they said, changed. I can't really see too much of a difference, to be honest. I guess maybe the wave within the Plague Lands looks like it's shaded a bit differently. But shades for Scourge, they are totally different. Look, they are red shades now, not yellow shades, representing comforting, happy barrier for you and Condi Cleanse or Might or whatever. This is a red shade. Look at that. It's a scary red face trying to kill you. And, you know, we've traded here for Greater Sand Savant, so you can see what it looks like with the big animation here too. Shades have actually gone through a lot of animation changes since Path of Fire came out. If you remember, they did all that work on making the animations bigger and more obvious from its release date. And well, now they're even colored red. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you're standing in some deadly stuff, I would say here. They still kind of have those raid telegraphs on there, right? But there you have it, guys. So that's some of the changes. That's some of the new animation work, some of the new skills and things that came with the recent balance that I did actually want to show you instead of just seeing it on paper. Let's actually dig in. If you guys have some thoughts on how the balance has gone now that it's been a few weeks, I'd love to hear it because I think we actually can have some informed, intelligent opinions now. So yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for another one very soon.